Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner podcast. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to get stronger spiritually as they get older, while others just slowly drift into discouragement, caution, and fear? Today, we're going to talk about one of the most inspiring men in the Bible, a man who spent 45 years waiting for God for the toughest assignment of his life, the promised land. We'll talk about the mindset that kept Caleb strong, how he learned to see him who is invisible, and why that same faith can help us experience personal revival, church revival, and renewed purpose, no matter what stage of life we're in. All this and more on the Rob Skinner podcast. I don't know about you, but lately I've been thinking a lot about the future. As many of you know, I've recently taken on additional responsibilities here in Boston. Stuart and Ashley Maines have decided to move on to new ventures. And so I've been asked to lead the downtown region for the summer as an interim regional leader. We'll see what happens in the fall. But it's a ministry filled with young professionals, young marrieds, students, and people who are trying to figure out their purpose in life. At the same time, Pam and I are asking some bigger questions ourselves. What does God have planned for the next chapter? How long do we continue in full-time ministry? What dreams has he not fulfilled yet? As I was reading my Bible recently, I came across the story of Caleb again. I was just reading it a couple days ago. And it struck me how different his mindset was from so many people around him. 45 years had passed from the time of the spying out of the land. And I think I did a podcast on that a month or two ago. An entire generation had come and gone. Paul says their bodies were scattered around the desert. But Caleb was still dreaming. He was still believing, still asking God for more. And I thought, that's the spirit I want to have. I want to have that Caleb spirit. That's the kind of person I want to be. Listen to these words from Joshua chapter 14, verse 6. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified, but the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said. Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite ever since, because he followed the Lord God of Israel wholeheartedly. And the land had rest for more. Caleb reminds Joshua that 45 years prior, he'd been sent to spy out the promised land. And the other spies came back terrified. There were 10 others. They saw fortified cities. They saw the Anakites, which are giants. They saw impossible odds. And guess what? Caleb saw the exact same thing. But he reached a completely different conclusion than those other 10. Why? Because he factored God into the equation. The others measured themselves against the giants. Caleb measured the giants against God. That's a huge difference. One produces fear, the other produces faith. The Bible repeatedly says Caleb followed the Lord wholeheartedly. I just love that passage. That phrase appears over and over in the Bible. Not partially, not occasionally, not when it was convenient, wholeheartedly. The incredible part of the story. What impresses me most about Caleb is that, isn't the time when he's 40 years old, Lots of people have faith at 40. That's really the beginning of your prime years. The incredible part about Caleb is at 85. 45 years later, after years of wandering in the wilderness, after battles, setbacks, disappointments, delays, Caleb stands before Joshua and says, "Now give me this hill country." I love that. Just love the spirit. Not give me a quiet place, not give me a comfortable retirement, not, give me a beachside cottage along the Mediterranean, not give me a safe assignment, not he just says, "Give me the mountain. Give me the challenge. Give me the giants." Imagine hearing that from an 85-year-old man. His faith hadn't weakened because his view of God had not weakened. The writer of Hebrews says something about Moses. It says Moses persevered because he saw him who is invisible. That's in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27. I think the same thing could be said about Caleb. Caleb had developed the ability, the skill to see beyond circumstances, to see beyond what he could see with his own eyes, beyond obstacles, beyond age, and beyond limitations. He saw God. And because he saw God, he believed differently. Most people evaluate life like this: me plus problem equals impossible. Caleb evaluated life totally differently. Me plus God plus problem equals opportunity. That's a completely different way to live our lives. The presence of God in your life changes everything. So, what are you believing God for? Let me ask you some questions. Do you believe people around you can still become Christians at your work, at your home, in your neighborhood? Do you believe that wandering disciples, people who are struggling, can come back to God? Maybe you've got children who are drifting away. Do you believe they can change? I do. I absolutely do. I know it can happen. It happened in my life. Do you believe your church can experience revival? Do you believe God can use you in ways you never imagined? Do you believe your best spiritual years are ahead of you? Caleb would answer yes, not because he was naturally optimistic. He seems to be kind of cantankerous. I mean, he seems to be kind of a crusty character. But it's because he believed God was involved in his life, that God was a living being, which he is. And sometimes I think we become practical atheists. We believe God exists, but we don't expect him to do much. Caleb never fell into that trap. He knew God was there and he expected God to act. He knew God would be acting in some way. A modern day Caleb. Recently, I spoke with my friend, Dr. Al Baird. Al is 85 years old. Can you believe that? 85 years old. And you may know him. He and his deceased wife, Gloria, spent decades serving God faithfully. I mean, they just were amazing people. They served in Boston, Los Angeles, and just got an amazing storied history. When I talked to him recently, he told me he was helping the church in Bakersfield, California. Now, Al currently lives in Lancaster, California, which is kind of north of Los Angeles out in the desert. And every week he drives about 90 miles from Lancaster up north to Bakersfield, California, which is in the Central Valley of California. He spends the weekend encouraging disciples. He preaches on Sunday because they don't have a full-time minister. He strengthens the church, and then he heads home at 85. Guy's 85, just like Caleb. Why? Because he has the Caleb spirit. He still sees him who is invisible. He still believes God has work for him to do. That's inspiring. And honestly, I think that's the kind of spirit I want to have when I'm 85. Now, I don't want to rush to be 85, but man, when I do finally get there, I hope I've got that kind of spirit. Revival starts with faith. As we prepare for the fast for revival, June 28th through July 1st, 2026, I think this lesson is really important. Revival starts when people begin believing God again. Revival starts when we stop focusing on the giants and start focusing on the power of God. Revival starts when we recover the faith to believe that God can do more than we can ask or imagine. That's what Caleb did. He never stopped believing. He never stopped expecting. He never stopped asking God for mountains. Here's the challenge. Let me leave you with this. What's your mountain? What prayer have you stopped praying? Maybe because you're too old, or because you've tried many times, or because you just feel like, oh, it's not going to happen. What dream have you stopped pursuing? What promise of God have you quietly given up on? Pick it back up. See him who is invisible. He's there. He exists. He's real. Believe him again. Pray again. Dream again. Because God is still in the business of doing impossible things. Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. Number one, join the Fast for Revival, June 28th through July 1st. You can go to robskinner.com for more information. And secondly, share this episode with a friend. Let's get a lot of people signed up for the Fast for Revival. You know, I really believe fasting makes a difference. I've seen it work. I've seen it work in my own life. I fasted this earlier this year, and I just saw some miracles happen. My son became a Christian. I'm just like, and I fasted many other times in the past, but I want to do it together. I want to do it with you. So please join me, because my goal is to have you live a no regrets life. Make this life count and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.